Hello and welcome to Managing the IT Security Portfolio, Driving SOC Efficiency. Today's awesome webinar is sponsored by Rapid7 and produced by Actual Tech Media. My name is Jess Steinbach with Actual Tech Media, and I am absolutely thrilled to be your moderator for this discussion today. Now, I think we're all in agreement about the importance of effective security infrastructure, strategies, tools, and teams. We're learning about new risks every day, and all of us are working hard to identify and prevent security threats. But is there a risk of putting too much time and energy into planning for and executing these responses? If we simply throw human power and resources at the problem without the right tools to support them, how can organizations move forward effectively with their IT and business operations as a whole? Today, we'll be hearing from Megan Donlan, Director of Detection Response Product Manager at Rapid7, about how automation can help you get more efficient and ultimately more effective as a team and as an organization. Now, there's a lot of information to cover here today, and I'm sure you are just as excited to get started as I am, so I will cruise through a few housekeeping things and then we can dive right in. First, I want to draw your attention to the question section of your webinar console. The absolute best part of these webinars is the chance to ask questions directly of our expert presenters. And if we are unable to get to your question in the live Q&A, the Rapid7 team will be following up with you after the event, so be sure to get those questions in. And hey, since you are already in that question box, why not say hi and introduce yourself to all the other awesome folks who are here with us today? And knock on wood, if any technical issues come up during the webinar, like say slides not advancing, audio, video issues, first try a quick browser refresh. That usually will do the trick. But if not, shoot our team a message in the questions console and we will be there to help you out. Okay, so if you're following along with me at home, and I know that you are, you will have already seen the handouts tab right there next to the questions tab. Go ahead and click into that handout section and you will see some exciting content to go along with the webinar today, including the Gorilla Guide Book Club and the Actual Tech Media events calendar. So for all you info-hungry humans out there, be sure to explore that handout section. And hey, it is not just awesome content that we are giving away today. We also have a $300 Amazon gift card as a prize drawing at the end of our webinar. Of course, you must be in attendance during the live event to qualify for the prize, and all winners must meet the Actual Tech Media prize terms and conditions. If you are not sure what those are, you can find the full T's and C's in that handouts tab. Again, just click into the handouts section of your audience console, scroll down to the bottom, and you'll find that there. And folks, we know that incredible innovations and great discussions start with a question. So we are throwing in some extra incentive to get those hands up and those questions rolling. Today, we will be giving away a $50 Amazon gift card to the best question asked. Now, keep in mind, again, the team will review all of the questions asked after the event, which means that even if your question is not read out in our live Q&A, there's still a chance to win. And as always, we will reach out to you via email after the event. Now, before we hear from Rapid7, we have a very special keynote discussion with my friend and fellow moderator, Scott Becker. Besides being an all-around awesome human and moderator, Scott has also worked in the IT industry for over 20 years and has a lot to say about balancing growing security trends with the overall needs of your SOC team and your business as a whole. Scott, thank you so much for joining me here for this discussion. I am so looking forward to chatting with you today.
Yes, thanks for having me on. I'm looking forward to it as well.
Well, you know, Scott, today I'd really like to pick your brain because we hear so much about security threats and responses to security threats. And while I think it's obviously great that we're increasing our threat awareness and those responses, I can't help but wonder about the human toll of chasing all these threats down. So maybe let's start by talking a little bit about IT operations in general. It seems like security is becoming a bigger and bigger part of any IT team's day.
I think that that's absolutely true. So you think about IT operations, those teams do a lot of important things. They're monitoring mission critical applications. They're watching dozens of applications for performance issues. They're looking for millisecond lags, over the network, monitoring for outages on, major routes on the internet. They're figuring out if tech giants like AWS or Microsoft Azure, have some sort of outage that's affecting, performance. And those things are all very important, more important every day, but in the last few years, those performance tuning and monitoring tasks have taken sort of a backseat in operations. You can ask Baltimore, you can ask the city of Atlanta, you can ask Maersk, the shipping giant. If ransomware or ransomware adjacent malware encrypts, all your data, you don't have any operations to tune or to monitor. There's no application performance to monitor. There's no network traffic to manage. Ransomware has completely changed the operations game. In the old days of 5 years ago, even, you'd worry about an outage that might last for a couple of weeks in the case of a hurricane. Superstorm Sandy, up in the New York area was kind of an eye-opener because power outages lasted for a few weeks, and that was back in, I think, 2012. In those cases, the threat of disaster downtime was at the same level as day-to-day performance issues of network applications in terms of priority. If you had bad performance on a network application, over the course of the year, that might add up to about the same as a big disaster. But now a big ransomware attack can take an organization completely offline for a month or more. Some of those municipalities that have been hit, they have to discuss it in public meetings, so we know what happened there, as opposed to companies which can keep it a little more quiet. They can require a year or more to get everything back in order. So, in the past, security was a critical piece of IT operations, maybe, a quarter of it, and on the same level as, other components. But now, because of ransomware, I think security has become the critical concern of every operations team.
How much do you think it's coming into play? So, ransomware obviously being a big part of that threat landscape, but we also hear a lot about, as everyone sort of ran out of the office 2 years ago, and they had to put together these somewhat Frankenstein work at home, responses. And now maybe switching into a hybrid model, and we've had some time to kind of go back and straighten out things that maybe weren't put together very effectively. Is that part of the overall landscape right now, and now kind of coming back out or adjusting now to what I think will not be a trend, I think or not be a short-term trend, that is.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's so much, I love that term Frankenstein, that you use there to describe it. There's so much that has been, jerry-rigged together that really needs to be sort of rationalized and optimized and fine-tuned, to improve the security reporting, especially on the IT operations.
Well, so I mean, how much do we actually, I know sometimes there can be a bit of alarmism with some of these responses, and I know you just mentioned that, ransomware is a big threat, but what is the actual volume? Are they increasing at the level that we think they are? And talk to us a little bit about some of the factors actually driving the urgency behind this increase in attention to security.
Yeah, I'd love to. Attacks are definitely going up. There's a lot of sources for this, but I'll go with a CPR report from earlier this year that found a 50% increase in overall attacks per week on corporate networks compared to just last year. There was a peak in Q4 with the Log4j exploit attempts, but it was consistently higher all year long. And, other interesting stats, that new peak is now 925 cyber attacks per week per organization. Now, that's a global number. Some places it's higher. Like I think Africa had the highest, per organization, and North America was among the lowest. But, back to my earlier point about ransomware, meanwhile, that same report found that 1 out of 61 organizations worldwide was impacted by ransomware each week. It's a little bit like a grain of salt number. Some organizations are hit multiple times per week or per year, because 1 out of 61 per week, you get 52 weeks. That's almost everybody every year. But, it's just the attack volume is huge.
I think I've heard that there is some good news there, that discovery and disclosure times are maybe getting a little shorter. Is that something that you've seen? Yeah,
one of the things too is like the average time to recover from a ransomware attack is 21 days. So the cost of missing an attack is high too.
Interesting. Yeah, so you have to obviously think about this from multiple ways. Is how fast do you identify, how fast can you respond, and then how fast could it take you offline for? All right, well, so clearly the volume is going up. So if the volume of attack is going up, I have to assume that the level of alarms happening for SIMs is going up. I mean, they must, these IT teams must just be getting bombarded with alerts right now.
Absolutely. It's pretty much a one-to-one relationship between attack volume on the one side and security tool notifications on the other, unless you take steps to add, either third-party tools and expertise and services, or, you put AI and machine learning in place, and add those to your defensive arsenal. Let's take that 925 attacks per week number. That's not a manageable number of incidents to track down, especially for a small IT operation. If your SIM isn't tuned finely enough, too many of those incidents are going to make it through your filters and really bog down your SecOps team. And so, and then even if you staff up, not only that, but so at that rate of increase of about 50% a year, at least from 2021 to 2022, you can hardly staff up fast enough. Even if you could research each one of those, you're looking at, in the range of 1,400 next year. So, it's just, SIMs are becoming very difficult to keep up with.
I have to assume that some of the alerts coming in are false alerts or overly sensitive. So, trying to provide, maybe context around some of the alerts or action items might be helpful, so that it's not just, ringing fire bells every time they get to work every day.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And you think about that, like this 925 number, that's not even, false alarms. So, if your SIM or your other tools are really badly tuned, your number is way higher than that, because you're seeing all kinds of stuff that's not a real threat.
Right. Yep. Yeah. So so a lot of volume in both actual attacks and risks, and then also just alerts around and the kind of noise around them. So let's talk about that. You've got teams that are just bombarded with this all the time. I assume there's a fatigue issue. And obviously you don't just want to throw, as we said at the top, you don't want to just throw manpower or human power at those, that fatigue issue. But, what are organizations doing? Are they hiring more people? Are they hiring deeper teams? What is the human side of that response?
That's a great question. Organizations are trying to hire, but here's what's happening. I'll go to a company called Cybersecurity Ventures, and they keep track of unfilled cybersecurity jobs, and they release a report every year about that. And so the last report was in November. They found the number of unfilled security jobs worldwide was 3.5 million. So, we're just coming off of the NFL draft week. So I'll note that they helpfully use this context that was enough to fill 50 NFL stadiums. Wow. But, in the US alone, the number of unfilled security jobs is, 465,000, according to that report. So, even if you have the budget to try to keep up in terms of, throwing people at the problem, you're competing with almost every other company in the country and in the world for talent. And there's not even enough talent really to fill all the posts that are out there.
Well, and I would also assume that having the right tools and processes in place, would also be really important here, because even if you do, let's say you go out there and you win the hiring lottery and bulk up your team as much as you can. And then you have a bunch of people, and if you have the wrong tools in place, they're going to spend all their time maintaining the tools or working on the tools instead of actually, utilizing them and doing the thing that you need them to do.
Yeah, those are great points. And all of that is completely true.
Well, I mean, I think we'll never be able to eliminate human error entirely. And of course, that's what, fatigue is at its core. But, it sounds like there are some things that we can do to potentially reduce the noise and get a little more efficient with the teams and the tools that we have.
Yeah, and I think that's some of what we're going to hear about, in the next portion of the session.
That's perfect. Excellent segue, Scott. And I think we'll wrap it up there, because I think it is about time that we get on to our expert presenter. This has been an awesome convo. I really appreciate you chatting. And Scott is going to stick around to answer some questions over live chat, right, Scott?
I absolutely will.
Awesome. So keep those coming in. Thanks, Scott.
Thanks, Jess.
Well, now it is my absolute pleasure to introduce our expert speaker today, Megan Donlan, Director of Detection Response Product Marketing at Rapid7. Megan, I know you have a lot of exciting content to get into, so I will hand the mic over to you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you to Actual Tech Media for hosting this webcast. My name is Megan Donlan. I'm the Director of Detection and Response Product Marketing here at Rapid7. And I'm excited today to talk about, I think, a big focus area for a lot of professionals in the SOC right now, which is how can we drive more efficiency, and also talking about this emerging technology of extended detection and response and how that can help teams recognize more efficiency, greater optimization, and ultimately stronger detection and response outcomes. So let's jump in. First, to set the scene a little bit here and why XDR is emerging and I think gaining traction so quickly in the market. And I think ultimately it comes back to something that we hear every day as we talk to security professionals in the field, through our consulting services, through our customer base, through prospective customers, is that increasingly the scales are tipped in favor of the attackers. Our security teams are really facing an unfair uphill battle, and it's driven by a few different factors. Of course, digital transformation, I think, is a big one. Teams have moved really quickly towards the cloud. Certainly the events of the pandemic have spawned a need for new applications, new software as a service, new technology. And I think a lot of times security teams have felt pressure to not be a bottleneck as their companies have pursued this digital transformation. And so they've been on their heels to catch up in a lot of cases to support these organization-wide efforts. That digital transformation has also kind of spawned the second factor that's shaping the market, which is there's no perimeter anymore. It's no longer run upstairs and unplug the machine when somebody's having an issue or it looks like there's some potentially malicious activity. Employees are everywhere. Even amongst the security teams themselves, many employees are still working remotely and intend to for the long haul. Some are coming back. People are traveling again. People have many different offices. Some are leveraging unique working spaces. And so the perimeter, as we knew it a few years ago, doesn't exist anymore. And ultimately, all of these different systems are driving really a flood of data that security teams are faced with and have to consume and be able to parse through and identify issues and security concerns. And they're doing all of this in the face of a very well-documented skills and resource gap that has plagued our industry for a long, long time and unfortunately continues to widen today. And so the net of all of this is no one has enough time. Certainly that is a theme that we hear from customers over and over again is, they are kind of racing every day when they come in, or oftentimes before they even get into the office or are out of bed in the morning, they're facing, more problems, more questions, more alerts, more alarms, more data, and they don't have the bandwidth to consume it all, to do it all, to even answer it all. And so it's really an uphill battle. And unfortunately, a lot of the tools that we put into place originally to kind of help us try to navigate this evolving threat landscape and attack surface have actually added and contributed to the complexity and the chaos that we see in the market. As a response to digital transformation and to try to keep pace with the environment, many security teams install different point solutions, trying to keep up. And, at some point, I think some of them worked effectively. And in some cases, I think, the philosophy behind some of those point solutions was correct, right? I'm going to go deep in EDR. And a lot of threats, start on the endpoint and it makes sense to have a technology that specializes in endpoint detection. But the reality is, as people started to collect these point solutions, it became very difficult to manage. Too many tools, I think, have a very arduous onboarding that is unrealistic, unfortunately, for the majority of security teams out there. There's way too much shelfware sitting around within a lot of SOCs that they just haven't been able to fully deploy. Teams also are facing a lot of disparate data. We got these tools to kind of put a Band-Aid on things as we acquired new technologies and as our landscape shifted, but these tools aren't talking to each other. And to try to make them talk to each other is a huge amount of effort. Many of them aren't able to scale as our environment grows, as we move into the cloud or adopt multiple clouds. And so, I'm faced with a lot of noise from all of these solutions. And I think a huge problem is too many false positives. That is a big challenge that we hear from a lot of prospective customers that are seeking new solutions, is the frustration of having so much noise and then chasing something down to only find out that, hey, this actually wasn't a threat and I've wasted time and potentially been distracted from what is a real threat in my system. And finally, more work for teams, elongating that mean time to respond and mean time to resolve these issues, which is not what we want. And so, yeah, I think it's kind of an impossible and certainly draining problem that's creating a lot of burnout for teams today, is navigating that noise and trying to find what matters. We know that more than half of the teams out there are overwhelmed with the volume of alerts that they're getting. Many cannot act on or even look at all of the alerts that are coming into their system. The average security enterprise team has 45 security tools in place. That is insane. That is a huge number of tabs and a huge number of technology to be able to manage. Again, knowing that 90+% of our security teams out there are understaffed, under-resourced, and don't have the skills to keep up with the modern threat landscape. And again, too much shelfware. Almost a third of security products out there aren't being used at all, which really, I think is, adding insult to injury when we look at the state of the market, to know that a lot of these tools that people have purchased, they just aren't even able to use. And so, I think teams have to ask, and this is what is driving some disruption and transformation in the security space right now: could it be different? How do we take these lessons learned? How do we look around at the market, the evolving threat landscape, and figure out, how do we solve this problem of too much noise, lacking efficiency, and lacking agility in our detection and response? And so that's really the goal of extended detection and response. Can we find that right approach? Can we drive relevant insights as opposed to aggregating noise? And I think that's a big thing as we talk about XDR, and where, some folks are talking about XDR, and I think really they're kind of bringing all the volume into one place. And XDR is really about, how do we simplify, how do we streamline and create a more harmonious, unified picture of the environment that filters out the noise and distractions and helps teams zero in really, really quickly on real threats. And so that is extended detection and response in a nutshell. As an emerging category, I think we're seeing a lot of different definitions out there in the market right now. But at the end of the day, there are a few key themes that I think are really true and fundamental to XDR. And the first one is, again, creating that harmonious picture, having unified telemetry and detections. So, today I have 10 systems all firing alerts. Even if I bring all those alerts into one space, I still have the same volume of alerts coming at me every day. And it's hard for me to navigate what's related, what's not. I want to be able to tie things together to understand the likelihood that something is a real threat, a real risk and issue in my environment. And, true XDR, I think, requires a high degree of correlation. And I think, this is where a native XDR approach, I think ultimately we're going to see kind of come to the forefront as the premier in XDR, because I think you need to be able to kind of take that, different tapestry of information and data and pull it together into something coherent, not just aggregated noise. The second part is about accelerating mean time to respond. Something bad has happened. I know it's something bad. Now what? And I think too many teams are spinning a little bit on the now what. I'm new to cloud detection and response. I got this alert. I don't know what to do necessarily. I'm new to managing this environment, or I'm new to looking at network data or endpoint data, or understanding kind of how these pieces fit together. And part of the goal of extended detection and response is to help kind of be that expert on the shoulder of your analyst, guiding them through here's the recommended action, here's the recommended resolution, and having that one-click automation in place to be able to accelerate that mean time to respond. I think the other side of that coin with really, really strong XDR is how can we help teams be more proactive? With XDR, can we incorporate elements of external threat intelligence? Can we anticipate attacks? Can we do more hunting? Can we get in front of some of these things to really thwart attack attempts before they come to fruition? And that is another big goal of XDR. And then I think finally, kind of at the crux of XDR is how can I drive more efficiency at every step, from deployment to bringing in the data to the reports that I look at every day, to actual detection and response, to even how I, measure the results of my SOC and share that information externally with leaderships and the board team and that sort of thing. How can we streamline every step? How can we learn from the dated user interfaces and experiences that have failed our security professionals in the past, and elevate the experience for everyone so that an analyst at any level can really operate like an expert? And those are really the ultimate big goals of XDR. And at Rapid7, our Insight IDR product really has had this approach and this philosophy to detection and response since the origins of the product, many years ago. How can we cut through all of the noise and help our security teams focus on the things that really matter, the real threats, the real risks, the real anomalies in the environment? There's kind of 4 key themes as to how we're able to deliver on that promise for our customers. The first is about simplifying security operations, but helping teams elevate outcomes. This goes back to, I think, that last pillar of XDR that we were talking about, a focus on efficiency at every step. We're a cloud native platform. We're SaaS delivered. All of our collection technology is software based. We've really had a forward looking view, listening to our own MDR SOC team and listening to our customers and our broader industry through Rapid7's open source community to understand, intimately the experience of a security professional every day and how we can shave clicks, shave time, shave resources off every step to make the security team life easier and help them get time back and build efficiency in the SOC. I think the second piece that IDR has always looked at is how do we move with the environment, anticipating the needs of a remote workforce, anticipating the needs of a cloud heavy environment, anticipating the needs of different applications that security teams are going to want to manage. And again, I mentioned the collection technology, being able to aggregate all of that information and not just bring it into one place, but have a very highly correlated view, understanding every user mapped to every asset, understanding how different network activity is connected to the employees and the people that you're monitoring within your environment. That's really important to us, and having that coverage across UEBA, network, cloud, all of those different pieces, endpoints in one place is another kind of core tenet of Insight IDR. Third, I mentioned our MDR team. So Rapid7 offers our Insight IDR, which is our SIM and XDR product. We also have a full global MDR service that we offer that many of our customers opt to use. And the MDR team leverages the same threat library as Insight IDR. And so we have immediate kind of feedback into our threat library to know and ensure that our alerts are high fidelity, actionable, highly relevant, and eliminating that noise that can distract teams. And I'm going to talk more about our detections methodology in a moment. And then finally, the ultimate goal: find evil as quickly as possible, eliminate it as quickly as possible. And so accelerating incident response, again, through a highly correlated investigation timeline, providing those recommended actions, embedding SOAR capabilities and automation to be able to hit go and contain and stop an attack in progress very, very quickly. And we've been effective at that for our customers. I do want to double click. I mentioned the detections methodology, and I do feel like this is some of the secret sauce of Insight IDR that's worth digging in on a little bit more. Many people know Rapid7 for our open source community and research projects. We've got the Metasploit project, the #1 pen testing tool in the world, Project Sonar, internet scanning, Project Heisenberg, a collection of global honeypots. We've got Velociraptor most recently, our digital forensics and incident response tool. And we've also acquired a company in the last year called Insights, which is a leading provider of external threat intelligence and intel. And so we're able to take this really unique threat intelligence coupled with external threat intelligence together to inform our threat intelligence and detections engineering practice. And so we are constantly analyzing this, and I think it helps put us at the forefront in kind of understanding threats and having those early warning signs to pull from to understand emergent threats and be constantly curating new threat intelligence. As I mentioned, we are able to, with our native agent collectors, native network sensor, APIs, really cover the full environment across network, cloud, users, logs, endpoints, all of that different data in one place. And so our detections engineering reflects that, and we're writing detections that go across the full environment because attacks can start anywhere and they can move anywhere. And ultimately, we're building a library that spans both known and unknown threats. We have the IOC coverage, again, powered in part by our Insights acquisition, but we also have historically focused a lot on behaviors. So IOCs give us that point in time coverage to understand a known threat really well, but our UEBA and attacker behavior rules allow us to connect the dots and be able to recognize repetitive behaviors that are consistently present in a lot of advanced attacks. And so it helps create an enduring library that our customers can leverage that is very high fidelity and, again, able to identify attacks very early on in the attack chain. And of course, as a leading cloud SIM, our customers can complement and supplement this out-of-the-box library with their own custom policy rules and detections. Most importantly, and I think, again, something unique to Rapid7 is we've got that embedded review cycle with our MDR SOC experts. Our threat intelligence team and MDR SOC working closely side by side to be able to say, hey, this one's a little noisy. This one actually wasn't super relevant. This other detection worked better. We've got an immediate feedback loop. So even if you're a software only customer, you are benefiting from the embedded intelligence and expertise of our MDR SOC team within Insight IDR, creating a very strong signal to noise for all of your detections. And the net of all of this is an always up-to-date detections library. We're a fully SaaS product, so as new threats come out, you have access to that content immediately. And again, being able to trust that when an alert fires, this is a real thing. This isn't a false positive. My team can now focus in on a smaller, more high fidelity set of detections and be confident that when they come up, we will know what to do and how to take action and can take that action quickly and confidently. And I think, we've seen success here. We've been able to help customers drive some tangible results that we're really, really proud of. And again, we hold ourselves to a high standard because we're using it ourselves. We're, I don't love the expression eating our own dog food, but that is what's happening with Insight IDR and our MDR team. And so our customers see that improved efficiency, more work-life balance. That's what we need. We can't have everyone in our industry being burned out. We need to retain talent. We need to give folks time for more innovative work and help them find those areas to optimize and build efficiency. More visibility, again, keeping up with digital transformation, being ready for whatever comes next. We're able to provide that to our customers, more endpoint visibility, more user insights, network visibility, all of the logs that they need, all of those different pieces are possible within Insight IDR. And ultimately, again, the main goal, how can we accelerate your detection and response? Find evil fast, eliminate it faster. And so we've been able to do that through this focus on efficiency and amazing signal to noise. And as a result, again, we've seen customers citing, reducing false positives by as much as 25 or 50%, which again, we're really proud of, and we continue to push and raise the bar in that area. And so I know this was a quick overview. I hope it was helpful. Again, we are able to help customers solve both SIM and XDR outcomes with Insight IDR. And I think, we've believed in this philosophy for a long time, and we've seen it work well for so many teams that are resource constrained that need to find those efficiencies. And we'd love to talk to you and learn how we can help you as well. And so with that, I do see that it looks like a couple of questions have come in as we're sitting here. One is about, is XDR just SIM 2.0? And it's a good question. And, I think it probably depends who you ask. I think SIM, unfortunately, traditional SIM puts so much of the work on the customer and the security analyst to figure out, here's all the logs, go nuts. Here's all the logs, you figure out how to configure them and write rules and tune them and manage all of this threat content. And I think, XDR is kind of the other side of that approach, which is we're going to create a super curated, highly manicured library and data collection that's laser focused on detecting real threats and finding real threats. That said, I don't think XDR eliminates the need for SIM. We still need compliance. We still need to retain logs. We still need to do reporting, and there's still a need for custom and policy violations that are always going to be very unique to your environment that you need to manage. And so SIM doesn't go away in this new world, but I think it could look different. And again, I think, we're proud of this kind of unique approach with Insight IDR where we're able to kind of address both sides of that coin. There's another question here, if an EDR, it's a little bit long, I'll just get the gist of it. If my EDR vendor can integrate with all of these different point solutions, is that effectively XDR? In my opinion, it's not XDR because, again, the goal of XDR is efficiency and removing the burden of having to tie that big picture together off of the shoulders of the already overworked security team. And if your approach to XDR is just integrating everything together, then in my opinion, you're just aggregating the noise. You're not actually driving true efficiency, stronger signal to noise, that curated, highly correlated library. And so I would say that, that's a well-integrated EDR maybe, but that's not XDR. I think we have time for one more. Is prevention part of XDR? That's an interesting one. And, I think certainly there's some XDR providers out there who are going to offer, or aspiring XDR providers out there who are going to offer prevention as part of their suite. Prevention, I think, is an important part of security hygiene. We need great AV, we need good blocking, we need all of these things. I don't trust any security vendor who says that that's not an important part of the mix. I do think what we've seen is that prevention alone is not enough. I think that's part of the driver of XDR as well, is the recognition that we need defense in depth. Yeah, we can have good blockers, and there's a lot out there, and I think we've seen plenty of vendors offer prevention, but I think, yeah, go get a solid AV provider for sure, but know that the best hygiene, the best employee training, and all of that in the world, attacks are going to come through, and you need to be able to find them fast, early in the cyber kill chain, and know what to do when they come. And so, I don't think that technically prevention is part of XDR, but I do think it is part of a strong security stack. But too many teams need and are lacking efficient detection and response, and that's where I think XDR can help. So I'm getting the wave. I think that's my time up. Again, we'd love to hear from you. We'd love to talk more about challenges that you're facing in your SOC and how we at Rapid7 can help. So thank you for watching. Thank you for the time, and we hope to hear from you soon. Bye.
Wow. Thank you, Megan, for that wonderful presentation and for sticking around to answer some audience questions. We are running a bit short on time at this point, so we will have to wrap it up there, but don't worry. If we did not get to your question today, the Rapid7 team will be following up with you after the event. And I have one more exciting thing for you. Let's get to it. Today's winner of a $300 Amazon gift card is Luna Kira of California. Luna Kira of California. Congratulations to Luna. As always, we will be in touch about claiming your prize after the event. And with that, on behalf of the Actual Tech Media team, I want to thank Rapid7 for making this event possible. Thank you to Scott and to Megan for some great discussions today. And a very special thank you to all of you for attending and asking some awesome questions. These events are so wonderful to be a part of because they give us all the opportunity to connect and explore new ideas together. I hope you've all collected some new ideas about how to manage your IT security portfolio efficiently and effectively. And I hope we'll see you again soon. Until then, have an absolutely beautiful rest of your day.